Good.
Well, everyone, welcome back to a very exciting episode of the Storybox podcast. Now, my friends, I had the delight and the pleasure of speaking to this wonderful man last year, but sadly the audio quality wasn't great on my end. But I'm so glad that we get to reconnect today. Mr. Horst Schulze is his name. He is a legend and a leader in the hotel world. Mr. Schulze's teachings and vision have reshaped the concepts of service and hospitality across industries. He has a very famous saying of, "We are ladies and gentlemen serving ladies and gentlemen." His book, Excellence Wins, has helped shape my life, my understanding of what excellence is, how to serve better in my community, with my friends, family, and what I do here on the Storybox as well. So, Mr. Schulze, it's an absolute honor and a pleasure. I could go on and on and on speaking about your great achievements, but welcome so much back to the Storybox podcast today, sir.
Nice to be with you again.
It's lovely to have you here.
It's really a pleasure.
The pleasure is all mine. I mean, I can't believe it took me so long to get you back, to be honest with you, but I'm glad that we could make this time to be together again. And some of the questions that I might ask, I don't know if you remember any of them, but I'm just going to ask you some of the questions that I'm curious about. We're going to talk about your book today, the book that has shaped my life, and all good things. So I'm excited. But the first question that I do want to ask you, Mr. Schulze, is what does success look like for you?
Well, it's the result. And look, it's, if you will, I look at my success, my success in business, if you will, but there are many successes that you try for. It is altogether, as a human being, let me answer. It's a complicated answer that I'm going to give you, but the question is complicated. What is excellence? Meaning, what is successes? And as a human being, there are several successes that you work for as a human being. One is in the functions that you fulfill. That's your business. And if you are successful, it's if you do your very best in whatever your function in life is. If you do your very best, and then of course, if you then achieve results. In my case, I started as a busboy, and I ended up creating the two #1 hotel companies in the world. Now, that is the result of the daily successes of trying to be your best, not perfect. There's no such thing than perfection in anybody. If you want to be a human being of excellence and consequently achieve successes, #1, what you do is you do the very best in your functions. #2, you do your very best in your relationships, because and nothing happens without also having the right relationships. Doing your very best. Now and again, I'm pushing your very best, because perfect doesn't exist. But you try to do your very best and improve that very best constantly. And #3, what you do your very best is morally as a human being. You question yourself. You have to question yourself. And who am I morally? And for me, by the way, and I'm not pushing that on anybody, but to me also it meant trying to do my very best spiritually. Now, if I put those elements together, you talk about a human being of excellence. And I'm not talking about me, I mean generally. The meaning, functioning, relationships, morality, and spirituality in some form or another. We all have that last part. Now, the way you work on those things, and that's important to put in here, is that you have to question yourself. In all of those areas, could I do better? That's how you improve. Continuous improvement is essential. Otherwise, if you stand still, everybody will pass you by. So continuous improvement is a very essential element. Doesn't matter who you are. If you're a dishwasher, which I was, you have to question yourself, could I do my dishwashing better?
Yeah.
And then improve it. Could I do my relationship better? And then improve it. And if you put this all together, that will give you great results, which you then others will call success. I call it hard work.
I love that. Love it.
Excellence itself is never an accident. It's always the result of high intent. Who would I want to be? High intent in my relationships and so on, high intent. And then hard work in accomplishing those intents. And then people call it, he's successful. I don't call it that. I said, I worked hard. That's it. All right.
I love that definition. And for someone that doesn't have this understanding of, I guess, wanting to do their best or even knowing how to do their best, how would you navigate someone that is currently stuck and they're chasing perfection at the moment and they don't even know how to do their best or even give their best? How would you navigate them through that?
You have to first come to the realization that you are a human being that is created to do something higher. It's not in work or whatever we relate to, we call it work. We call it work when we go to college or to actually to work for an income. It doesn't matter what it is. That you should never go to work. You should never ever go to work. Because you see, the chair on which you and I are sitting is working. We are human beings. We are created to reach for something higher. So the first thing to do is understand that, and then say, make up your mind. I am what I'm going to do, writing a book or playing soccer or whatever it is. I'm going to go and do my very best. And when I'm finished with it, I will question myself immediately, how could I have done better? And then you will improve. That's not different than, let me relate to my business for a moment. We have created special events for New Year's Eve in all of our hotels. So there has plans have been going on to create those events. Entertainment Hyatt and all those things have been done. Promotions have been made. Now, the thing to do is the day after New Year's Eve, latest on the 2nd of January, sit down and say, how could we have done better? What should we have done better? What should we not have done? And then create a plan for the next New Year's Eve. The same thing you do as a human, as an individual. You can't just say that should be, of course it should be done. Why are you doing it as an individual? Is that common sense? Yes, it should be common sense, but common sense is very little applied. Common sense is that you question yourself after you now take a step. I'm saying to yourself, I'm going to take a step. The next thing I'm going to do with excellence. And then as soon as you finish, say, how could I have done better? What didn't I do excellent? And then the question yourself at the same time, if there were people involved, how did I do in my relationships? Because the judgment of what you do has more to do with your relationship than your actually functioning. And that is the great thing. That has to be understood too. And this is very important for people in business. And if I touch on that, the millennials, and looking at you right now, by the way, they're saying to over 80%, I will buy a product from you, even if I could buy the same product next door for less, if you serve me well. Yeah. Serving means relationship, if you care for it. So this thing, to analyze the things in yourself, how you're doing, and then tweak them and improve them, however slightly. Think about you would do that every day from now on for a while. In 3 months, you have become superior to many. So you're not stuck. You just stop for a moment. Now move forward.
Is it hard to be excellent every single day?
Oh yeah. Well, sure, you slip away from it, but it is not. It becomes a challenge. Is it hard to play a difficult game of tennis every day?
Yeah.
Yeah. But was it fun? Absolutely.
So this is something that I absolutely love because my grandfather used to teach me have an excellent spirit. He was more concerned about my attitude, my integrity, how I turned up and did a job. He's like, there's no point in doing a job if you're not going to do it well enough. Otherwise, you're just being lazy. So has there ever been a moment for you where you felt like you didn't give your best?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And in fact, if you don't mind, I tell you a story around that.
Go for it. Yes.
My first maitre d' where I worked as a busboy when I was from 14 years old till 70. I was 17. He made it a point to tell me nearly every day, come to work to be excellent and not to work. I mean, he's the one that inputted that into my mind. And before I left there, he made me promise, look him in the eye and say, look me in the eye and never go to work. Always go to create excellence in what you're doing. I promised him. And of course, I was young and I was gone. And I went from there. I worked in Switzerland, worked Holland America Line, worked 3 years in Paris, worked a year in England, and I went to the US. I worked in the Hyatt, in the Hilton Hotel, in San Francisco as a room service waiter with the intent to go back 2 years later to Germany after I had a promotion to room service supervisor. That was my intent. And so I worked and I knew I would get a job because I was the best waiter there. I had great experience. The rest were people that took orders and delivered food. And the manager of room service was German, so I knew I would get a job. And it became available after a few months, but I didn't get it. I didn't get it. Somebody else got it. And of course, what did I do? I reacted stupid management and I was angry, I was hurt, my ego, everything. Yeah. It took me about 3 months and I started to admit the other guy deserved it more. I was young and I was partying a lot, came late in the morning, just a few minutes. From 100 yards, you could see that I was tired. When the manager said, do a little bit of side work over here, I said, why me? Why not the others? And things like that. The other guy never did that. He came in smiling in the morning, in time. When the boss asked for something special, he said, I'm happy to. And I realized, and I went to my little furnished room in the lousiest district in San Francisco at the time and talked to the maitre d'. He wasn't there. He had passed away and he didn't show up as a ghost, but I talked to him and I said, forgive me. I went to work. I didn't go to work for excellence. In fact, I haven't thought about it for a while. Forgive me, and it will never happen again. But then I knew I had to process myself in a way. So I wrote on my mirror, and where I shave in the morning, large, go to work for excellence. Reminded myself every day, go to work to be excellent. And I went through it, and it was a struggle in the beginning, and then became a habit. And my career took off like a rocket ship. Yes, I felt totally flat on my face on it. And then I had days in between, of course. But I always was right back. I will not do it unless I do it better than anybody else, period.
I remember reading that story in your book, and it's sort of like I could relate to a story with my grandfather teaching me. It was like this massive rebuke. It was to do with, we used to go to his place and we used to mow his lawn. And here in Australia, summertime, it's stinking hot. I was a young kid and I was young. So I had a stinking attitude before even showing up to my grandparents' place. My grandfather saw that I had an attitude. He could see right through me. I mean, I have a very expressionate face, so it's not hard to not see it. So I visibly did not want to do my grandfather's lawn. Now, for my grandfather, he didn't care about doing the lawn at all. He cared about my attitude while doing it. And then if he always wanted to instill in me, if I did a great job with an excellent spirit and attitude, then I would get a reward as a result, not just for the sake of me, having an excellent attitude. So he watched me. So I did my portion of the lawn, but then he said, Jared, you're going to do the other portion. My older brother used to do the other portion. I'm like, why am I doing that? Like I did my portion and I chucked this massive rotten attitude, and he's like, just do it. So I did both of them. And at the very end, my grandfather used to give us $20. Now back in those days, a lot of money. He didn't have to do it, but he did it. Once again, instilling that excellent attitude and spirit and the incentive. So I walked up to my grandfather and I held out my hand and I said, where's my $20? My older brother got $20 because he had a good attitude, but he didn't have to do any work. Meanwhile, I had a stinking attitude. I didn't get any money. And he said, I don't reward bad attitude. I reward excellent attitudes. And I said to myself, like, come on. Like in that moment, through another stinking rotten tantrum. But as I went home, I realized that my grandfather was right. And I quickly realized that having an excellent attitude and spirit about whatever I did, whether it was doing the lawn, whether it was with my friends or family, whatever job it was a far better option to have an excellent attitude than not.
In fact, Jay, he served you in that moment. And that's the word service is so often, if you ask people to define it, even our industries that claim to be in the service industry can't even go on and define it. To me, service means, first of all, it starts the instant you make contact with somebody with a fine greeting. And then it continues with complying to the needs and wishes of the customer, of those that you serve. It's not about you anymore then. It's doing the best for the other person, the very best for the other person, even though if that other person doesn't understand it, but doing the very best for them. In that case, he did the very best for you. Giving you $20 wouldn't have been the very best in that moment.
No.
The very best is to serve your attitude and serve you for the future. And that's what it did. And of course, so service exists out of which you also see in my book, welcome, complying to the wishes, doing the best for the other person. And the third one is then, of course, farewell. But the middle one, the doing the best, it's not about you anymore. In that moment, it's about the person opposite you.
Yeah.
Doing the very best for them and helping them to make the best decisions. That's serving people.
What if you have a customer, and this is probably like everyone that has been in the service industry knows this all too well. They have a very stinking rotten negative customer that treats them with so much disrespect. Do you still show an excellent attitude, or do you react in kind?
Why would you allow anybody else to make you less than excellent?
Oh, that's good.
Okay. Why would you allow them? Why would you like somebody with stinging attitude to make you less than excellent? We won't allow that. But now, on the other hand, if you're in business, there will be complaints. So, but we know from studies, and mind you, those are all facts. We know from studies that 96% of people who complain, all they want to do is get rid of their frustration. Yeah. They don't want anything, but they're frustrated. And if it is not accepted, the frustration goes up. So what you do when you get a complaint, by the way, we in Ritz Carlton, when I was running that company, or when I was running my next company, a Capella Hotel Company, we certified every employee to handle a complaint. And the way we certified them, we taught them, number one, when you get a complaint, pay good attention, look them in the eye and listen. Don't look to the left because a pretty girl walks by or whatever. It's pay attention, total attention. So first listen. Number two, show empathy. Show how I feel really bad. And number three, apologize. Please forgive me if it wasn't your fault, even if it wasn't your fault. In this moment, you take it away. By that time, the complainer feels embarrassed that they even complained. So now, if you want to carry it on, you make number four, if necessary, make amends. Make amends. Sometimes whatever happened, if there was something missing, make sure they have it. And then delight them. In our case, we taught anybody, and then tell the story about a busboy in the book, and when the guy complains about his TV and so on, a busboy said, please forgive me, I feel so bad, I'll buy you breakfast. But then he went further. He sent some cookies to his room with a note saying, I'm sorry. Now, in that moment, that customer, rather than becoming an enemy of a company, becomes an ambassador of you and your company. What we must understand, particularly in our workplace, we are constantly defining ourselves. And consequently, of course, the company we work for. But if the company that we work for gets a great name, it will reflect on us. We don't have a great name too. We don't just work there to fulfill functions. We're creating something higher. We are human beings.
Mm.
And if you talk young business people on the line, you must understand, every time you go to work, you're not at home when you sit and watch TV. You're not defining yourself. You define yourself at work. That's where you have time to create something, earn an income, and define yourself at the same time. Man, it is so great. This is exciting. Exciting to go to work because there's so much more in that place. There is relationships. There's everything in a place of work. Or in class, wherever you're connected to now.
What do you think is the biggest mistake you've seen young people make when they start their business, starting out?
Their own business. Yeah. I can't say too many that I have seen too many, but coincidentally I talked to somebody today who's starting a new business, and I asked, okay, what do you want to accomplish with that business? It's a very interesting idea of a business. I really like the idea. I think it can have major success. But I said, so if you do that, what will the company be in 5 years? Well, he didn't have a vision. You have to create a vision for your organization. The number one question you have to ask yourself, where do I want to be with this company 10 years from now? Now, when I started Ritz Carlton, I knew there was no hotel. That was a year before we opened our first hotel. I sat down and said, what's the vision for this company? And my vision was, very simply, I will create the finest hotel company in the world. In 10 years, we will be known as the finest hotel company in the world. And then I hired the first people and I told them, join me for that reason. They laughed. We don't even have a hotel yet. Yeah. But that's why we're going to work from now on. With other words, create a purpose. Don't just create a work for you. Yeah. Create a purpose. But be sure, absolutely sure. Once you think, yeah, that's who I want to be, not that's what I can be. That's not a vision. A vision is a great, beautiful place in the future where you want to take that company to. Where you would like to be. And then you question yourself next, well, will that be good for everybody? Will that be, if I accomplish that, if that is the journey and the being there, good for the investors, if there are any, good for the customer, good for every employee, is it good for society as a whole? If the answer is yes, well, then you know what to do. From there on, you know your reason why you go to work, to create a purpose which is of value to all concerned. Not good for you only. If it's only good for you, you're going to fail. And it's immoral. It's not moral. It has to be good for all concerned. That's the first thing if you do. So whoever you are sitting there with a new business or relatively new business or an older business and you don't have a vision, for crying out loud, sit down with yourself and agonize about that vision. But don't give yourself simple answer. Oh, yeah, it's good for the investors. Why? Good for the employees. Why would it good for the employees? The vision. So I urge you to do that. Otherwise, you're just stumbling around and working and doing something. It has to lead. You have to have purpose. Aristotle already said, you need purpose in life. And so why do you go to work just to accomplish today? Why wouldn't it lead toward a higher purpose, high intent? Excellence is never an accident. It's always the result of high intent. And that high intent is the vision that you have, where you lead people to, and that will make you a leader.
Yeah. I love that. I relate to it so much. I mean, starting the Storybox, I wasn't going to do it unless I had a clear vision for it. And
Right.
I'm curious for you, Mr. Schulze, when you had the vision for the Ritz Carlton, did you notice that it changed at all over time, or did it remain true?
Well, that's why you want to set your vision very, very high. Mm-hmm. So it didn't change. It didn't change at all. What changed is strategies, people, attitudes, all kinds of things changed. What didn't change was the vision. Yeah. Every time you fall back and you constantly focus on the vision. As a leader, let me model that for you for a moment. As the leader, what makes you a leader? Number one, you have that vision. You have made sure it's good for all concerned. Number two, you commit yourself to it. You commit yourself to it. Absolute commitment. It's not just a pipe dream. This is what I will accomplish, no matter what I face in between now and then. Number three, you identify the steps that will take you to that place, and then you initiate those steps. Next, you keep focus on them. You see, that's where people break down. And that's where people break down. That's the difference between managers and leaders. Leaders will keep on focusing on the vision. Managers pretty soon will find an excuse why it cannot be done. And that's the enemy within you. Mm-hmm. That's when you find the reasons why a mandate can be done. Well, because maybe we have a setback, we have this. No, the vision stays. Yeah. Your values don't change. Your strategies don't change. Your values don't change. Your strategies change. Your tactics change. Your places change. Your location changes. Your people change. But your values cannot change, and your visions cannot change.
Mm. That's powerful. And I believe there's a Bible verse that says, without a vision, the people perish. I think without a vision, your business perishes. So if you're just going along with the flow of things, especially when a challenge arises, and this is one of the things that I want to ask you, Mr. Schulze, is when a challenge does arise, how do you remain true? Is it going back to, once again, that commitment and that excellent attitude of, I'm going to remain as true as I possibly can despite the challenge that is in front of me, or the rejection?
But that's part of the point that I made about focus. You keep on focusing on the vision, let the vision drive you through it. It is sometimes, that doesn't mean, look, I had a moment during the Ritz Carlton creation where 2 years in, I knew we wouldn't make it. I had a setback. I knew we wouldn't make it. The setback was too great. We wouldn't make it. I had moved. I have given up a huge job with Hyatt. I was in charge of food and beverage operations for all the United States before to come there to start a new company. My wife had moved with me. We couldn't sell our house in Chicago. We owned it and we owned cost on it. We had bought a new house. We had bills and that. We had a new baby. I mean, I didn't tell my wife. It wasn't working because I didn't want to burden her. But I finally had to, because I knew now we wouldn't make it. Mm. So that was 2.5 years in with Ritz Carlton. And I went to her and said, look, I have to sit down with you. We made a mistake moving here. So I came to that point. We all come to these points. Mm. And she said, now, she happens to be a great believer. She had prayed on the issue. And she said, why would you argue with God? I had prayed on it. Why don't I argue with God? Maybe we made a mistake. The job won't work, but we didn't make a mistake moving here. Just keep on focusing on what you're doing and don't question God. I said, wow, I will never ever question God in front of you. But so yeah, I said, why would I even do this? All of a sudden I was focusing on not making it, which I was preaching everybody never to do, but I was doing it. And I said, the next morning I went to work and I got my guys together and said, okay, I know you all think we're in trouble. We're going to make it. Let's go. Have you all worked hard? Yes. Could we work even harder? Yes. Let's go. And, the rest is history. 10 years later, we were known as the absolute number one brand in the world. So it's just keep on. So, yeah, you have moments, of course, we're human, but always go back to your vision. Or let it be the guiding light, your purpose. Let it be the guiding light. Let it go, no matter, and you find a reason thinking that you're even silly to think about. And I said, no, there it is. It's the devil in me that makes me look at something else.
It's oftentimes our egos that stop us and cripple us and tell us that we're no good, especially when a challenge comes our way, 100%.
Your very own devil in you.
the devil that we sort of unleash.
Exactly.
I have a saying that I often use when it comes to when I notice, like, and oftentimes I won't even notice this until later, but when my ego is taking control, I've got to I got to be persistent to put it back in its place. So I say, be persistent to remain consistent in the things that I want. So if I want to be true to my vision, be a true man of integrity, be excellent, then I got to be persistent at it. So it goes back to the very beginning with what you were saying, is creating those habits daily. So if you're daily waking up and saying, I'm going to allow this challenge to affect my life in a negative way, then obviously it is going to translate into your day. So I love that. I love that story.
Yeah. So one more to you that listen. Look at yourself and say, first of all, vision. Then write down below that commitment. Then write down, initiate the steps that it takes to get there, and then write down focus. And maybe underneath write that, because you need to focus. You need inner fortitude, and so you have to commission and mobilize your inner fortitude sometimes. Totally mobilize it to keep on looking at the vision. The vision will take you, and it will take you there. And guys, when you get there, to be honest with you, when I look back, and we were voted by everybody the number one hotel company, in fact, number one brand in addition to that, was that the great thing? And frankly, it wasn't. The journey there was the great thing.
Yeah.
The journey with the people, with the wonderful human beings, the difficult moments, and what were the best moments? Well, the difficult ones. Those are the ones when I still have conversation with my friends and that who are all running companies now about the time. And what do we talk about? The times when we overcame difficult moments. That is our hero moment of discussion, not when it went smooth. So that's what it is. Know that. You will one day look back, and that difficult moment that you face right now will be the exciting moment that you look back to. And it's the journey that you take. That is the value, and the people that are around you.
Couldn't have said it better even if I tried. I love that. Mr. Schulze, I am mindful of your time, and I do appreciate you taking the time once again to be on my show. I've got a couple more questions for you, if you don't mind. Sure. So you are a man of faith, and that's evident in your book. You do talk about it, and even your wife, you just mentioned, is an incredible woman of faith too. So I'm curious, how has your faith made you an excellent human being?
Well, let's talk about it. People have faith and don't get it even. Don't get it. Look, it's very simple. Everything. Look, your destiny in life is the decisions that you make. It's based on decisions. It's decisions with high intent at all times. Now think about it. It's all decisions. I'm in love with my wife after 43 years. I don't only love her. I'm in love with her. Why? I made that decision. I don't wait for that feeling. I don't wait for other things I make the decisions about my life. And you have to be in charge of your decisions. Now, it's not, everything is a decision, even faith. Yeah. Come on. I went jogging with my good friend, Stefan, in Germany. I have a house in Germany, got there very often. We went jogging, went through the forest. And he always loves to talk to me about that faith issue, because he's a proud atheist. And a great guy, by the way, and an intelligent guy, and so on and so on. But all of a sudden he stopped and said, and he always likes to do it. And I was hoping he wouldn't that day. But suddenly he stopped and said, Horst, you cannot prove that there is God, you with your faith. I said, Stefan, interesting. You can prove that there isn't. With other words, you made a decision to not believe, and I made a decision to believe. So it's a decision that I made. But the longer I made that decision, the more I know I made the right one. But incidentally, I made a decision for hope, and you made a decision against hope. So it's a decision. What's the big deal? And of course, once you have that decision and you come to believe, it will help you through many moments in your life. I tell a little bit in the book about my story of having cancer, which was told me it's a fatal cancer, and that I would have 10 months to a year to live. Mind you, that was 26 years ago by every expert in America. So I made a decision at that time to rely on my faith and not to feel sorry for myself. And of course, I had moments I felt very sorry for myself, but I went always back to that faith. So it helped me through those years. It was a very difficult time because I had very small children at the time, 3 small children, and I wanted to survive to be with them. So I made a decision, and it helped me through that dramatically. In any moment of real difficulty, you have somewhere to go. You have somewhere to go and say, okay, you are higher. I accepted, and in a way, I made that decision for faith is because I felt it's nearly arrogant to think that I am it, or we as human beings. I felt there is certain arrogance there. And for instance, my successes, if you will, that you implied, well, I'm arrogant to think it was all me. For somebody gave me a hand there that I believe. So I made the decision to believe that there you are. It's nothing else. It's just a decision.
Yeah, very, very true. I have a friend of mine actually send me this hero band, and it says "Trust in the Lord," and I keep it on my wrist, and I wear it now every moment of every day to remind me that in my darkest moments, I just need to learn to trust in the Lord and be reminded of that faith commitment. Because it is easy once again because we are human, Yeah,
that's it. I mean, people say, oh, being religious is such a My wife is not a la woman, but she's a full believer. In the morning, she says, okay, she gets up very early in the morning before me, and she says, I'm going to go for a little walk around our place and hang out with Jesus. She thinks so. I mean, and it is. People think, and there's some religious fools who are ridiculous about it. But my goodness, I'm just accepting there's something higher than me who I can go to, and if there really is, that person must love me. Otherwise, they wouldn't have created me. There you are. It's a simple thing for me.
I think people overcomplicate it. They just make it too difficult for them to believe, where actually it is so simple. I mean, God talks about having the faith like a child. Childlike faith is innocent. Yeah. But over time, we complicate things. We make it harder on ourselves, so that faith can't be possible for some people. But I love having the faith the size of a mustard seed, which is like so tiny. If only everyone, and we're not trying to force this on anyone at all, we're just saying if everyone had the faith so small just to believe God is real, he does love everyone, and it's the best life possible. Like, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for God. That's the honest truth.
That's what I feel. But then you only have to also go from there. If anybody wants to take it further and wants to really question it, read C.S. Lewis, who was one of the greatest minds arguably absolutely one of the greatest minds in the last century, who was a non-believer, who then want to seek and find out how to disprove to the public, to the world, and as a professor, Jesus. And he came back from that study and said, I cannot, in the contrary, I have to believe now. Look at people like that, or or Colton. You may not know Colton. Colton was one of the top people in Nixon's cabinet, and by the way, he went to jail after Nixon's broke down, and he said, He won, by the way, 26 lawsuits as a lawyer in front of the Supreme Court. At that point, the number one winning lawsuits, pleads, and he said, I could prove in front of that Jesus was here. After all, look at in our group, we were pressured. We were pressured for jail time, and after we were pressured, we gave in and we rapped and talked about the apostles. 11 of them were willing to die for that truth. They would have changed their mind. They would have said, no, it's not true, before they were crucified themselves. He said, that is proof in itself to them. But for me, I don't need the proof. Just make the decision. I don't need anything. So it's a simple thing, but if you want to take it further, look at it, and it's great. It's another exploration as a human being. That's beautiful.
It is beautiful, and it is the best life that you possibly can live. And I think we're both examples of this very fact. So, Mr. Schulze, for those people that want to get a copy of your book, and I highly encourage people to do. I've gifted it to several people that I know, and I've promoted it like crazy, and I'll continue promoting it like crazy over the course of my lifetime. If they were to turn to any page or chapter within the book, it's not a long read at all. It's quite easy for those people wondering. If they were to turn to any page or chapter in the book, they're going to get a renewed perspective in life. Which page or chapter would you recommend they turn to?
Well, then go to the last one. That is, of course, the rest of the story. The rest of the story. Then go to that one if you just want a piece of life. But altogether, guys, I wrote it in a way. I wrote it in stories, because I have to be honest with you. I have read so many business books. Hardly any one of them I finish. Once or two, they're so boring in their charts and this business talk. Come on. Why not just tell the story around how it's done? And that's why I wrote it for people, so it wouldn't be boring. I tried to condense it in a book that you can read very fast and very easy. So, and I wrote it in my mind, frankly, a lot for young people that saying, oh, wow, this is not that complicated. And it isn't. It isn't complicated. Just go through that and say, oh, yeah, this is easy. Frankly, in mine, I had also in my mind CEOs, if they read it, that they would have a bad conscience, because they manage money and all kind of stuff, but they don't really lead people and toward successes really. So I had those things in mind. So it's very easy to read, everybody. I'm not selling anything. Look here, I have huge sales. One company recently bought 5,000. The CEO read it and bought it for all of his employees. Another company, 3,000. So I have huge sales on those things. And that one sale or another, I appreciate you promoting it. And I hope that people read it, because I hope that you have a real meaning, something in your hand that really will make you successful.
This book, honestly, and I've said it many times and I'll keep saying it, it radically changed my perspective on many, many things. It wasn't just excellence. It was leadership. It was service. It was relationships. It was money. It was stories too. That's one of the things that I absolutely love the most is stories, because they help us learn. They help us grow. They help us understand life more. And I so appreciated the amount of stories that you did share, because I was hooked. It was like a massive page turner for me.
Yeah, and I hope if you read it, you don't relate it to a company only, relate it to you personally.
Yeah.
That's the point.
That's what I did. Yeah. So people can go and get a copy of your book. It's available anywhere books are sold. Please, everyone.
Or Amazon, called Amazon.
Amazon, Barnes & Noble, anywhere, go and get it. Mr. Schulze, this is my final question for you. I could speak to you for hours, but I want to be respectful of your time because I know it's getting late there for you. This is my final question for you. It's a hypothetical one, but I want you to imagine with me for a moment that you've been able to reach the age of 100. All your friends and your family have decided to put together a film for you of everything you've ever said and everything you've ever done. Don't ask me how in the world they got it all. We'll call it magic for the sake of argument. But they've been able to get it and show it to you on your 100th birthday. What do you want that film to say and to show about your life?
Well, again, let me tell you a story. Mm-hmm. When I opened every Ritz Carlton, all the new ones, when I was running the company, or all the ones that we took over, I opened myself and did training in the new hotels. I did the same thing with Capella. Over 50 Ritz Carltons I opened myself, by the way. That doesn't matter where they were. One of them, and every time I flew back from wherever we opened the hotel, back to our headquarters, where I lived in Atlanta, I prayed that at least one person understood what I was teaching, would take it and would gain success. I hope all, but at least one. So I opened the Ritz Carlton in Bali, wonderful hotel. And I was teaching the people there and so on. And then I left Ritz Carlton, started a new hotel company. And a couple of years later, the owner of the Ritz Carlton Bali called me and said, I have dismissed Ritz Carlton from Manu. Hotel companies don't own hotels, they manage hotels, just so you understand. So Ritz Carlton, we didn't own, we manage hotels. Everybody does. So the owner called me and said, I have dismissed Ritz Carlton. Would you want to run it now as in your new company? And I said, certainly, I would love to. Happy, excited. So I went to Bali to take over that hotel, which I had opened as a Ritz Carlton. And we gave a big reception for the dignitaries of the island and the tourist people. And there was about 800,000 people there. When all of a sudden, the young man came to me and said, do you have a minute, Mr. Schulze? And I said, sure, I do. And he said, you know, when you opened this hotel as a Ritz Carlton, I was a banquet server. I listened to all the teaching that you did with the managers. And you always wrote on a flip chart. And when you left the room, I sneaked back in and took the flip charts. I still have them. I know every word you said, and I applied every word into my life. I'm now the general manager of this large hotel in Ubud and Bali. And I said, thank you, Lord. So I know somebody got it. And then I said, that was the most fulfilling moment probably in my career. It was so fulfilling. It was so overwhelming that this young man got it. He took it. He got it. He lived by it. He repeated every word, but not only repeated, he got it. He had embraced it. He made it himself and applied it probably better than I did. But that was fulfilling. I would like to have more stories like that. That it was worth that you actually contributed to an individual. Again, as I touched on early, maybe before our show even, one of the great honors of being a leader of a company, one of the great honors to be a manager of a company or manager of a department is simply, it gives you a chance to positively impact for success other human beings. What a great honor. So that is what I would love to see.
Can I just encourage you? There's another person that you've impacted, as I'm sure you've impacted many others, but a young 24-year-old Australian boy or man, I should say man, here in Sydney, Australia, that when I heard about you for the very first time and I read your book, it brought back a lot of memories for my grandfather, but also for my parents teaching me and a lot of mentors in my life. But I just need to say thank you for being a mentor to me from afar. Thank you for making an impact in my life, because every single day that I get up, I put into practice as best as I possibly can all the things that I learned from this book all the things that you teach outside of the book too, that have just helped me enormously, and I won't ever stop. And I hope to do not just you proud, but everyone else proud at the same time, to make an impact in the lives of others as well. So thank you so much, Mr. Schulze, for everything.
Delighted to be with you, and God bless you all in Australia.